music is just so funny, man. It's like, it's right place, right time. Anybody could be in it. The 9 times out of 10 bands fail. And the 1 in 10 that succeed were the ones that were too stupid to stop. And that's musicians. That's anybody in any kind of entrepreneurial field.
I agree. Welcome again to my house.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I really needed a haircut.
Well, yeah. And and not to mention our schedules really haven't aligned well.
No.
You know? Let's just get it out in the open. You need a haircut, dude. Your hair's so fucking long.
Dude, I haven't been to you since February, I think.
Yeah, I'm so yeah, no, I was out in LA doing that little job and with L'Oreal, and I was cutting your hair in my hotel.
That's right.
Yeah. And that was the same trip I got food poisoning.
Really?
Yeah.
From the fish taco place we had, or no?
No. I got food poisoning the last day I was in LA. Like, so I ate something and I ended up not feeling that way. And I just threw everything up and I was freezing. And I set the thermostat in the hotel room to like 80 and I was still freezing. And I had a 6 a.m. flight out of LAX.
So much fun.
Oh yeah. So I'm like walking around shivering and shaking the next morning, like in sweatpants.
Mm-hmm.
I looked wondrous. Like I had given up on life, as that Seinfeld episode would suggest, when you wear sweatpants in public. I was like, I give up.
Yeah.
I couldn't drink enough water. And then it took me like another day to recover from it. It was awful.
Gosh, geez.
Food poisoning's the worst. So what are we doing there, dude? You sent me some photos about some stuff that you are thinking about doing. Both of them are slightly mullet family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been cutting my hair now for about 18 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
19 years.
19?
Yeah.
I met you when I was
2005.
20.
That's where we met.
Okay. So
Or when we met, yeah.
yeah. I was probably like, what, 23?
Maybe. I mean, you're only a couple of years older than me.
Yeah.
It's that.
How old are you?
I'm 40. 40.
I'm 42.
Okay, yeah.
So whatever age you were at too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm so bad at math. Like people go, 2005, remember that? I'm like, how old was I? I just have to remember the age.
Yeah. I think I was 22 when I met you. So you must have been 24. Yeah.
That would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Especially at that time, working more with Epitaph.
Mm-hmm.
That would make sense.
Yeah. I met you at Brett Gerwitz's house.
Was it that big party?
We were cutting demos up there, and I think you rolled in with from that band From First to Last. You rolled in with Sonny Moore, and we were all just hanging out at the house, and that's when I met you. I think Allison might have been there too.
Allison Burns? Yeah. And dude, I brought my buddy Ryan with me because because Brett and Gina were like, you could bring whoever. I'm like, really? Oh yeah. And so my buddy Ryan Reed is a huge punk fan, right? Like loves all the punk bands.
Yeah.
If you want to go to Brett's house and party, he's like, fuck yeah, right? And so this is the best part. He has no idea that they don't do that. They're like clean.
Yeah.
Sober now, right? He's like, do you have like a pipe or a bong? He's like asking, and she's like, and then Gina was so funny.
Oh,
she goes, I have an apple.
That's awesome, man.
And so Ryan's like, I guess it could work. And I'm like, right? I'm like, he's like, and I say, and it explained him. I'm like, dude, like, that's a thing of the past now.
That house is so awesome, man.
It was a great house. That's actually probably one of the best views of LA from the hills.
Sure.
God, that was such a funny fucking night.
Yeah, dude.
I was so embarrassed. Like, you asked them if there was, he's like, well, I just bigger music. I'm like, oh, like, yeah. It was fun. It was fun. I always remind them.
Especially when you give people a warning, like, hey, man, things are...
but it was one of those things I just never even thought about it.
Right.
Like, it did not occur to me that my friend was going to ask, like, is it this?
Sure, yeah. You have a big bong I can borrow? Yeah.
Or like,
yeah.
It's like one of those things. Like, what the fuck? That's funny.
Yeah.
Cracks me up. So, what are we doing?
Okay. Tab, you're always just the best at cutting my hair. So since you've been cutting it forever, I kind of want this little, bang thing, but then maybe a little bit of a mullet, and we can kind of just, see where it goes.
It's very Britpop.
Mm-hmm.
I've been noticing that more of the mullets are becoming like early Oasis.
Okay.
Because the singer kind of had that Beatlesy mullet going on.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's more in that vibe than just like more of that throwback cliche redneck mullet that you see And then there's frat boy mullet too.
Right.
Yeah, that's I
mean, honestly, the reason why my hair is getting parted right now is because it just got too got too long. You know, like I go like this.
Now usually you have something fringy kind of thing going on. Yeah,
like it's just it's so long, and I just my bad for not.
No, it's all good. We could have crossed paths, and I said, "Wait till
you did." Like, oh my god, yeah,
yeah, I know.
But it's been so hot, and I'm on tour right now, and I'm so happy to.
Which weird. Your gig, I mean, and like you're moving your head, you're swinging your arms, you're banging the drums, cutting your lips, kind of cool.
That's true.
Do you want to see your eyebrows? Or you want to kind of hang over your eyebrows?
I'm not sure. What do you think? You've been cutting my hair for a minute now. I always trust what you have to say.
I know you do, and that scares me sometimes because I don't know if I trust me. But I feel
that you've never given me a bad haircut. I've never complained. Never,
today could be the day. We'll have it on camera. I feel that anytime you have bangs above the eye as a dude, I just can't help but think of like Lloyd Christmas from Dumb and Dumber.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm always like, don't do that. Or Simple Jack.
Simple Jack, yeah.
Yeah, like those are the two people I think of.
Yep. Okay.
And outside of that, like, have you ever noticed any guy who had...
No.
Even if it's supposed to be shaggy, just once you start seeing eyebrows, it works good on the ladies when they do the Betty Page kind of thing.
Yeah, I was on tour last year, and I saw everybody getting haircuts at like I was at Sonic Temple, and I saw everybody getting like these little hair. I was like, man, I like to get my bangs cut. I just need it. Bad idea, dude.
Yeah,
not going to you. You know.
Yeah.
Like, it was like everything else was fine, but it was like up here. I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
And then like I saw my girlfriend. She's like, what happened? I'm like, Tab's not here.
Tab didn't do it. I wouldn't told you.
I mean, it was just like in my face, and it was summertime. It was so hot. I mean, it grows back, but
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah.
First of all, let's get you shampooed.
Okay.
Before we get you shampooed.
Yeah.
The overall length here, is this too long? Or are you kind of okay with that?
I feel like if we could bring it up just a hair. I say just a hair.
That is like the weirdest expression as a hairdresser to hear.
Okay.
When you mean a hair.
Half an inch. How's that?
Okay, well, my question is here in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is hanging below your collar. Are you cool with that? Or do you want that to also come up?
Till I come up a little bit. So I think it's going to grow into, you know what I mean?
Okay, so most of those, the images that you sent me is it's longer back into here.
Yep.
Like the ears exposed, kind of like a little sideburny thing. And then this is just kind of shattered up around the front.
Yeah.
And then this is just kind of like smush it around and you just works. What products are you putting in your hair, Ryan?
Here's the secret. I really don't use a whole lot. I just some hairspray sometimes just to make it just stay the way it is. I kind of just get out of bed and I can go like this, maybe put a comb through it if it's like too crazy. And yeah, maybe some sea salt spray, some things, you know.
So you don't use a lot. No, that's good. Hey,
low maintenance, man. The more low maintenance, the better.
Now, do you let your hair air dry or are you blow drying?
I air dry usually.
Air dry? Mm-hmm. How about this? It is really hot here in Texas. But I am going to at least get it so it's not dripping.
Okay.
And then right when we're like getting to a spot where it's about 60% something dry, since I know I don't want you to have this idea of like, oh, well, I'm not going to do all those things because I know you also have to do sound check today. Thank you for throwing me in.
Oh, we're
getting all of your timeline. And then, what we'll do is you'll be ready to rock and roll.
Great.
No pun intended on that. So let's get you shampooed.
All right, sounds good.
And we're back. Like the McRib.
Oh, man.
Nobody ever knows that reference.
Nope, I don't.
You know? So what happened is they took the McRib away.
I knew that, yeah.
And then it said, it's back. And it kept saying that. And there's this guy I work with named Yurish, and he'd always say, it's back, like the McRib. And I was...
It just stuck?
Yeah, it just stuck in my head. And so anytime...
I see billboards for it and stuff.
Yeah, that was like one of the advertisements. It's back. It's back. The McRib. It's back.
Yeah.
Horrible food. Great marketing.
I think I learned about the McRib. Do you remember when the Flintstones put out a movie? It was like, it was like John Goodman and
John Goodman's
and Rosie O'Donnell. They were they were the Flintstones. And I think that's when they might have introduced the McRib. Maybe. I just that's where my memory goes when I think about it.
Yeah, you know that place is still put together, like where they filmed it.
Oh, really?
It's outside LA. Like they still have the stone structures. It's like that one place
in the desert or something, or like where?
It's like 40 minutes outside of LA.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I forget where it is, but it's somewhere out that way. It's also it's like that the area of for like New Zealand, or they have Hobbit Land. Mm-hmm. They built this shit and they just left it there. I guess somewhere in the Caribbean, one of the pirate ships that they sunk for the movie is just there, and it's part of like the Disney.
Oh, weird.
The Disney cruise. Yeah. One of the excursions, you can go see like, oh, here's the Black Pearl or some shit.
Yeah.
So I saw it and I was like, well, that's cool. Like on an Instagram reel.
Yeah. And we're back. Isn't that amazing? We said we're back, and we covered the McRib and a Disney cruise, all from just saying.
Not covering what we talked about when we were shampooing.
Sad.
All right. So like, how do you explain to somebody what you do when you're on a plane? Because I travel a lot. Somebody will go, oh, so, what do you do? And this and that. And I have to explain, I'm a hairdresser, then travels, and I teach. And I have a podcast and blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
How do you introduce what you do to someone who doesn't know you?
I think what I do is I explain very shortly to make it create more questions. So I say, I'm a professional musician.
Boom.
And so then people will be like, well, what does that entail? And I'll go,
I was just going to ask you, like,
yeah.
Yeah.
It could be playing with a different, multitude of bands. It could be recording sessions.
Studio musician.
Yeah. It could be consulting. It could be working in like a management field. It could be, just all things immersed in music. And so, I mean, that's the short answer. So yeah, professional musician. Sometimes I'm like in the studio, like even, writing with other people. I actually, dude, I don't think I told you this. I actually just got my first like co-write to get picked up in Japan.
Oh, right.
So
you're big in Japan?
So there's this boy band. I'd never heard of them, but they're called Six Tones.
Okay.
And so I wrote with my friend Cameron Walker, and he was in this band Twin XL and Weather Star, and sometimes he'll play for bands as well. Like he's played guitar and bass for like the Ready Set, and he was just out with this band Set It Off. And so he and I got together, for an afternoon, and we just wrote a song for fun. He's got like a publishing deal with Big Machine. He got like a manager, all this stuff. But this band liked the song, and they picked it up. And so I'm a third of that song.
That's awesome.
So I found out about that. It's supposed to be in like a Mercedes-Benz commercial in Japan.
That's big.
Pretty soon, yeah. And then they're going to be playing the song. The song's called Spicy.
So
yeah, they changed the lyrics. They didn't change the melodies though. So on the actual recording, I played bass on it. I played drums, and then I helped write the guitar solo, and I wrote the pre-chorus melody.
So you're basically saying is that you could also be a Dave Grohl.
I mean, I don't view myself as a front man, If I wanted to do that, I would have done that a long time ago. I have the ability and capabilities to sing, but that's not like my forte,
You sing.
I'm not very good, man.
I can't. I can't sing like you. And what's the instrument that you feel most comfortable playing?
Drums. I mean, I've been playing bass almost as long as I've been playing drums, and not a lot of people know that. But
and do you slap the bass?
I don't slap the bass, but it's really good that I learned that instrument as well when I was like in elementary school when I started picking that up too.
Why do you think that picking up that string instrument was a good choice?
I just understood it more than guitar at first, like because there's only you're only playing typically one string at a time.
And drummers can usually only count to 4.
That's right. Sometimes 6. Okay. Sometimes drummers can count to 6.
I get like so much hate from like those like Danny Carey fans. Don't you know they can count to 8, 7, 8, all those crazy time signatures. I love all those time signatures. I think they're great. I don't want to ever play guitar in any of them.
I did a gig in Japan at this festival called Loud Park. We were playing, it was like a 2-day festival. I can't remember if they were on the same day as the band I was playing with, but Meshuggah played. And I was trying to figure out like the time signature of one of the songs, and I couldn't do it. And I was sitting there with my friend Jackie going like, yo, what is this? And so we're like sitting there and bobbing our heads trying to find, they call it the one, right? We're like, where's the one on this?
Yeah.
Where's the downbeat? Where does it begin? Where does it end? Where does it begin? Yeah. The prog stuff though, I think it's just about listening,
Yeah. No, I think the prog stuff is cool. I just, at some point I am kind of annoyed with usually the vocals in most prog stuff, because the prog stuff is also more operatic.
Mm-hmm.
And like you have this aggressive thing, then all of a sudden you hear this like operatic
Right.
singing, which is probably why I never really got into like a lot of like the 80s like bands. Like I can appreciate Judas Priest.
Okay. Yeah. I've never been like an 80s guy, man.
No. So, but like it was just very polished, very refined. And then you have a group like Motley Crue that's not as polished, a little bit grittier.
Sure.
And I like that. I like the grit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I think anybody who's ever watched the podcast, like may always hear me talk about like the same bands over and over again.
Right.
Like, it's Fear Factory, Meshuggah, Slipknot, Pantera, Machine Head.
Got it.
I'm always making a Slayer reference at some point.
Yeah, as far as being a professional musician goes, I guess you could say I've been doing it since on the professional side since I was like 18.
So what makes it what classifies a professional musician? Because I always had this idea that the first time you get paid, it means you're professional.
That's right. It could be anything. I mean, like
even if you get paid once.
Yeah. I mean, I guess now that I think about it, when I was in high school, I had a jazz trio and we used to play in Park City at this place called the River Horse. And it was like kind of like an upscale restaurant. We would get paid to play there and we would do songs out of this thing called the Real Book. It's like a jazz book. So you like open it up and there's like all this, the standards, and you can get the book at like any music store. It's called the Real Book.
Do music stores still exist?
Look on Amazon, I guess, but I mean, yeah, I mean, if you go to a Guitar Center, they should have it.
Not a Sam.
Not a Sam, man. Yeah, did you hear they're going out? Yeah. Well, I mean, they're not going out. They're just not having stores.
Yeah, they're going the way of like Sweetwater.
Yeah, or the way of Amazon. I'm trying to think how far back. Yeah, I started playing drums when I was like 9 years old.
Yeah,
and I was living in Moore Park at the time, Moore Park, California. When I started playing, I had to move around my whole life because my dad was he was a cinematographer. I never went to the same school twice until I got to Utah. But in my journey of like playing drums, my parents always noticed I was like tapping on shit like all the time. Like
because you have ADHD.
That's correct. You couldn't tell?
Yeah, it's way. It's called stimming,
right? And
I do this mistake. Why is it that all of us musicians are totally okay if, like, we'll all be at a table going...
It's like, I don't even know I'm doing it half the time. You know what I mean?
My wife is like, can you stop the tapping?
Then you're like, oh, what?
I'm tapping.
Yeah.
And I think when she says tapping, I'm thinking it's like this.
Right.
Like, you're like doing this.
Yeah.
And she's like, can you stop that? So no, I'm like, if you only heard the songs in my head
right now,
it is brutal tapping. This is some heavy shit going on.
Yeah.
So your parents realized you were ADHD.
Right. And so,
let's get you into some drums.
Yeah, pretty much, man. So I started taking lessons when I was in second grade. As far as like bands, I would only listen to the Beatles. That's all I listened to for like for the first like 2 years of.
Do you still like the Beatles?
I do. Yeah. I still do. Yeah. You don't like them?
They didn't do it for me.
All right. Well, I guess this haircut's over. No, they're great, man.
Yeah, no, I know. Look,
that's insane.
There's a lot of bands that I was influenced by that were totally influenced by the Beatles. Notably, Love Nirvana, right?
Sure.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Off the Beatles. I love Elliott Smith. Clearly, the harmonies were influenced by Beatles. But I think when it comes down to it, I don't like all Beatles songs.
No, I don't like all Beatles songs. But
who did the majority of the writing? It's always Lennon. And then Harrison. I realize
what's the Paul songs?
I'm not into the Paul songs. I realize I'm not the Paul McCartney fan.
All right, we're gonna have to do a dive later on. But anyway, so when I was growing up though, like my parents like would put me in front of the TV and I would, they made some movies back in the day. So they made a movie called Hard Day's Night and I would just watch those like over and over again. I'm like, this is what I want to do with my life. I want to be Ringo Starr. Saw him on this big drum podium. Yeah, that's what I want to do. That kind of followed me. And then my parents like encouraged me to go to, when I was in like fourth grade, where they put me in like I was living in Denver at the time for just like a couple years because my dad was working on the show Perry Mason, like the new Perry Mason ones, where he's like older. And we were living in Denver and my dad and my mom, I can't talk. My mom and dad sent me to this place called the Colorado School of Music. It's kind of like what School of Rock is today. They put me in a class. And so they would put you with like, people that were like similarly in like the same skills. I was playing with guys that didn't know anything and I barely knew anything. And they're like, okay, you got to learn Green Day's When I Come Around, and you got to learn Enter Sandman by Metallica, and you have to learn About a Girl by Nirvana. And there's a couple others I can't really remember. Or like Come Out and Play by The Offspring. And these were all
like guitar. It's not easy to learn if you just take up guitar that down.
Yeah.
I mean, it's if you're just playing guitar, that feels like you just learned how to play, I don't know, fucking Eruption.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, but that's where it all started for me. And I remember playing my first show when I was in 5th grade, and it was at a bar. And that's where they had like the Colorado School of Music shows or whatever. There's a bar in Denver called A-Raps, and I think it's still there. Played there, and then it's funny, if you fast forward the clock, several years later, I still talk to one of the guys in that band. The name of the band was called Squirrel Phlegm.
Squirrel Phlegm.
That's right.
It's almost as great as the band name that you and I have for our joke band with Ryan Seaman.
Yep.
That we've actually once done anything.
We will, man, someday.
Dude, I mean, literally, I just keep looking at the list of all the episodes I have to get done. Like, I'm ready to, like, I need to edit. And I'm like, I have no idea. I'm going to be able to, like, just set up my little recording thing and just record the riffs. I need, like...
We all have the technology. We all got Logic at our house. Like,
I know. I just need to, like, record it.
Just got to get in the group chat, dudes. That's how everything operates.
Well, but he's busy on tour. You're busy on tour this summer. And I'm busy... recording, being a dad.
Yeah. So when I was in Squirrel Phlegm, though, I was really scared playing my first show, but my dad has it. I don't know. It's just, it's new. Yeah.
Was it scared like you're gonna fuck up, or scared like sideways? Because
I think both. Okay. I was like, wow, this is it. And there's like all these like lights and just
Had you done any sort of performance art before that?
I think I was in like a talent show, like in elementary school, and I like wrote like a drum solo, but I'd never been like with a band until 5th grade. But if you fast forward the clock, like many years later, there's this guy that played guitar with me in the band, and now he's like a front of house guy. That's a sound engineer for live shows, if people don't know. But Sebastian, that was his name, and now he's working for like Oliver Tree and like Aquabats, and he's a house guy, at the Echo in LA. We've been in touch for a really long time. It's crazy where it just takes you.
Both in Denver together.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah, but I mean, again, I had to move around every single year until I got to Utah, which that was in like 7th grade. But then after, so Perry Mason, Raymond Burr died. And so the show was over. And then my dad was like, hey, we got to move back to California. Yeah. So in 6th grade, I moved to California. And I think the day that we moved out there, my dad got a job offer to go to Utah. My parents had already signed the lease for a house.
Oh, wow.
I remember being in sixth grade, and I remember like the record Insomniac came out, and I would come up from Green Day, and I would come home like every day after school, and I would just be playing to that. And then I started getting in the bass, and I was learning, Nirvana's Nevermind, and I was like playing like Smashing Pumpkins songs like from Melancholy Infinite Sadness, Foo Fighters, Presidents of the United States of America. These are all the things that like got me started. And MTV was a big thing too for me growing up.
Which is so sad that MTV is not even what it was, because I think that those who know MTV now are like
reality shows.
Yeah,
just trash TV.
Like, who got knocked up the youngest in their life, right? And I mean, it was such the thing to do was to watch MTV, because that's where not only was there just new music, but also just like good music. There used to be, they were all about showing like on 120 minutes. It was like, hey, these are new bands. And so many bands got their start from there. And then so many other groups got even more popular from Beavis and Butthead.
Oh my God. Yeah. I used to watch that show growing up.
Yeah. But Beavis and Butthead did so much. I think somebody said like, would White Zombie have been as big as they were in the late 90s if it wasn't for Beavis and Butthead?
Well, MTV was really big too. I mean, like even like the Osbournes, they kind of shed light on that band, The Used, know? And I think maybe they got a jump start from that, but it's like all media stuff, man.
Oh, I remember that when they had to retire Colin. They had to retire the video.
Because it was just like, it was on.
Also, Whitney's video. That was #1 forever. And my friend Jill is the girl from that video.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And we would go places and people would be like, excuse me, are you that girl from that corn video?
Yeah.
And she's like, yes, I am. It'd be like at the mall, like a hot dog on a stick or some shit, getting like a lemonade.
Somebody coming up to you in like raver pants or something, being like, hey, yeah, Jinkos.
Jinkos and kickwear. Did you ever go to raves?
No, I didn't. I mean,
I go, why? I've never asked you that.
No, I've been to like warehouse parties and shit like that, like in like downtown LA, but never like a rave, you know?
Rave. Never like, okay. I was just curious because
like glow sticks and fucking
candy.
Like, yeah, I know.
I did.
What was that like?
Oh, it was fun.
Where was that? Like Temecula for you, or was that?
So I was living in Temecula.
Yeah.
And there were these two, I was just telling the story, funny enough. There's these two girls, and they were like a year older than me. So if I was like a junior, they were like seniors. They would always be showing up first period, which was our photography class.
Okay.
Still rolling from the weekend. They're like giggling, frying balls.
Yeah.
Like rolling on. They were like taking a bunch of E and like acid.
Yeah.
Or, like not all the time, but sometimes they would. It was really fun. You know, listen to this. And they'd have all these CDs of trance music. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And like, I don't know if there's something about trance music that there was a melody to it. It just wasn't like techno.
Yeah.
It wasn't like early Moby shit where I was like, oh, I can't get into this, you know? And so what happened is that is what got me into listening to EDM years later, right? So I'm like, I'm 16 going to raves, right? Like, out, like true out in like the middle of San Bernardino where you don't know where the party is.
Sure.
Nike flyers.
Yeah.
Fun shit like that. And then,
your friends call you or something back then.
Yeah. Hey man, we're over here. Gas station, we're all driving together. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm only listening to metal at this time. I'm only listening to like Slayer, Typo Negative, all the mid to late 90s bands, right? Like, and then I ended up seeing, it was like 1998, this band starts opening up for Fear Factory, which kind of combined my love of metal, industrial, and then trance, and it was Static X. And they were the weird bridge where you'd go to raves, you see Static X shirts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they didn't have the kind of like dance techno.
That first record
stuff on
their
Yeah.
Right. They had that like fancy trance thing, and they just threw guitars. Or you could say they put metal in trance, or they put trance in metal. Either way, they combined that. Sure. And it was great. Yeah, I just remembered, I was just talking about that with one of my buddies, because he's doing, my buddy Chris White, Salva, he's doing something and with DJs and Brandy, and he's doing something with Foster Dominance, and we're talking about, we're talking about Jinko and kickwear fashion. And I was like, oh, I want kickwear. He's like, what? I didn't expect you wearing kickwear. Well, you get into Static X. He's like, dude, all my buddies in Pennsylvania were into metal. Got into trance. You know what? Static X.
I think of being like, I was going to say, wherever you're from, like, for example, like Utah. Okay. So like when I moved to Utah in 7th grade, the talk of the town was like punk rock and ska music, dude. Right?
And it was probably all Descendants.
It was cool
because of the whole straight edge.
Yeah. Well, it was just like, I don't know. It had a really good punk scene when I was growing up there.
Which is why they made a movie.
I would think so.
SLC Punk. Great.
Yeah. SLC. It was a great movie.
That intro when Matthew Lillard is yelling at his dad, and he has this insane blue mohawk, which was his real blue mohawk.
This is my life. Yeah.
And then his dad, he's like, you sold out, Dad.
Yeah.
And he goes, remember, son, I didn't sell out.
I bought in.
I love that quote. That's one of my favorite movie quotes.
Yeah.
And now that I get older in life, you can look at like, oh, you sold out for this. It'd be like, or I just saw all this other opportunity. I'm like, you buy in. It's a fun quote.
I think where you grow up depends on where you listen. Like the Midwest, it's like a lot of like metal. It's a lot of like active rock. And then you go to California, and it's a lot of like skate punk. And it's a lot, I think it depends on where you grow up. Like the Pacific Northwest was like grunge. I think Utah and Denver and stuff like that, they really celebrated punk rock and ska music. You go to Nashville, it's like country. You go to Texas, it's country. You know what I mean? I don't know why it was the way it was, back then. But I think like regionally speaking, I think that's what would, even today, man, like a lot of the active rock bands, it's like,
what do you consider rock? Like what's active rock?
Creed, or like Alter Bridge, or Five Finger Death Punch, or like, that to me is like active rock. When you're growing up and you're a kid, you are trying to figure out where you fit in and who you are and what resonates with you. And I think what actually ended up happening is I think I found what my passion was, like within, like, I was like, you know what, this is the music for me. It was punk though. It was like, those are the people that accepted me growing up. And I felt like I was a part of something. Cause like when I went to school, I felt very secluded. I felt very left out. I wasn't into sports. I wasn't really into like video games. I was just into like, I don't know, like fast music. And it was a cultural lifestyle, getting to hang with your friends, and maybe you're drinking, maybe you're hanging out, you're smoking, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess I discovered it in like Hawaii. I don't know, it sounds funny. So when I was a kid, my parents, they got we got like a summer home in Hawaii. Yeah. When I was growing up, and they sold it like when I was maybe like a sophomore or something, but like,
we'll never want to go to Hawaii. We'll just get rid of it.
I mean, well, no, it was just a teeth. Yeah. So when I was in Hawaii though, my mom's like best friend from high school was living on the island. And so, one night we went over to their house, and like their kid, Chris, was, 7 or 8 years older than me. So I must've been like 10, 11. I was wearing a Green Day shirt. He's like, "Oh, you like Green Day, huh? Oh, check out this band Rancid, and check out, the Suicide Machines and Pennywise." And all of that kind of opened up my world to what punk rock in my eyes was,
Now, are you an only child?
I am, yeah.
Okay. So you and I both have the same thing, being only children, is that we didn't have that older sibling.
Right, to kind of guide the way.
So what we had is we had like that one person who we just were like, you look a little bit more how I probably want to look. Or you like that. And that's why I had this hairdresser when I was 10. Her name was Anne. I wish I could find her to this day. But she, like in 1989, 1990, I was born in 82, right? So I was like 9 years old. She had like the nose ring that started from here and went to the chain to her ear. She was wearing like 20-hole Docs. And I was like, oh, she's like, what are you listening to? I was like, and it was like obviously early 90s. And I was like, I love Pearl Jam and Nirvana, which, and she's like, oh, you like that?
If you're watching MTV, that was probably, Chili Peppers, all that stuff. Yeah.
Any ever radio station was playing it too. She's like, well, have you ever checked out Lenny Kravitz? Have you checked out these? And she was like feeding me all of this. And then meanwhile, my dad's like, you like Metallica? And the guy goes, have you ever heard Black Sabbath for Deep Purple? Right. Rainbow? And I'm like, what? And
what is all of this? Yeah.
And so I totally know what you're talking about. Like when somebody says, well, you like this? Well, have you heard of this?
Right.
Yeah. I'm so thankful for those conversations, because that's what leads you down like discovery.
Right. I mean, because like when I was, again, like middle school is kind of when I had gotten to like all the punk rock stuff.
Yeah.
Like in elementary school, it was like if it was on MTV and it had a guitar, and so, yeah, exactly. Didn't matter who it was.
Yeah.
When I got
even the Gin Blossoms,
it could have been Dave Matthews, could have been Lenny Kravitz, Blues Traveler. I was listening to all that stuff too when I was like a kid.
I saw Presidents of the United States of America.
I'm so jealous.
It was so fun. That was like my second concert ever.
I saw the only time I've ever, I haven't even like seen them. The only time I ever like watched a special is when they played Mount Rushmore. Oh, I thought it was just awesome. They're so good, man. They're so original.
They're fun.
Yeah.
They're so fun live.
I think the guitar player went on to be like an executive over at Amazon Music, like way later in life.
Huh. Interesting.
I think. I could be wrong. But no, but going back to the whole Utah thing, it was like, I was like an only child. I was like in school. I would go to Hawaii in the summer times. We lived down, this is gonna be a funny story too, but we lived down the street from Todd Rundgren. And so I would play with his kids.
Who's that?
He's a rocker, man.
I don't know.
He's a solo artist.
Never heard of him.
Really?
No.
Oh my God.
Who?
Todd Rundgren.
No.
Really? No. And he's also a producer, and he I think while I was over there, I want to say he produced he produced a Bad Religion record when I was like there. At the time, I didn't know. Like at the time, I didn't know who Todd Rundgren was, but everybody said, "Oh, Todd, yeah, he's playing with his kids." He was like the local rock star of the community and all this stuff. So I doubt he remembered me by now, but like I used to play with his kids.
Watch this will I know a way to his.
Yeah. Hey, remember when I used to come in your house? He had like two houses, like one like 3 doors down, and then he had another one like maybe 4 blocks away. Yeah, I used to play with his kids every summer, man. That's awesome. We're still kind of in touch on Facebook, but where's I going with the story? Yeah. So when I got back to Utah, I started, I went to, the thing that really opened up my eyes to everything was after my friend Chris had got me into like Rancid and Suicide Machines, then I found out about like a label called Epitaph Records, right?
We all have that label.
And then it was like, oh my, and then like, MTV was playing like Real Big Fish and the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones and Social Distortion and Face to Face. And so I was like watching, like, I think there's like a commercial. There's this thing called the Warped Tour coming to town. I remember in 1997, I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to go to the Warped Tour. I don't know what this is.
Was that the first year?
That was the first year I saw it. The first year I think was in 95.
Right. Okay.
So they had 2 stages at the time.
Yeah.
And when I went there, the bands on the side stage was Blink 182, I think this is like right before Dude Ranch came out, or it was maybe about to come out. And then Limp Bizkit was promoting $3 Bill Y'all, and I didn't know who they were yet. A bunch of bands like we're on that summer. Sick of It All was playing. I just that whole summer changed my life and outlook. And I remember also like walking into the parking lot and people were handing out like free like compilations for things.
Yeah.
So like back in the day, they had these things called CDs, right? And so, so they had this thing called CDs, and you would find it's almost like the Spotify playlist, but they were just on like a jewel disc
thing.
Yeah, and so I discovered this label called Fat Records. I'm like, holy shit, this is like the fastest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. And so then I started, I met people at that Warped Tour. I started like going to like local shows, and I got involved in my local scene, and that's kind of like how everything melted to like right now, It's just, I could take you down memory lane, but it's just,
well, I know some of your memory lanes and stuff like that, because you've gone down with Forrest, who,
oh yeah, he's a great
guy.
Yeah.
And then, now he's an Austin guy, but,
I think he's coming out tonight too.
Cool. I find all these, how do you get into this stuff really interesting, because you and I have very similar, like parallels as far as finding, like for me, it was like, okay, Roadrunner Records, Ozfest. These are the bands, and then,
I'm so, dude, when I look back on it, I'm so thankful I grew up in Utah, because I think if I would have grown up in California, I might have been a fuck up,
Really? So me growing up, my family moved from Orange County, California to Temecula, California. And
not a super far move, but far enough to where it's a different culture, right?
And when we moved there was one stoplight.
Okay. Yeah.
One stoplight. So if anybody's been wine tasting in SoCal, there's many stoplights now, but there was one. One
freeway?
Well, it was just the 15 that just drove straight through. And then, you'd exit, and there was no stoplights even exiting. Like wait till the coast was clear, play Frogger, make your left turn. It's a couple of lanes. There was like a music scene out there, but it was more of like a death rock scene.
Okay.
It was this combination of death rock and Norwegian black metal. And there was like this guy in this band, and he was like the king. He was like the pumpkin king, if you will, of like that genre.
Okay.
Right. And then there's a few of us who didn't really fit into that whole, gothy thing. That was when I, and that really came out more in high school, but like middle school years, that's when we were starting to get into like, we started going from like listening to like grunge music, and it progressively over months became heavier and heavier. And that was when the time he was my best friend until high school, was Alejandro Linares, who's guitar player for Finch.
Okay.
So we were in the 8th grade.
Oh yeah. Okay.
We were in the 8th grade talent show together, playing not Smelly Trump. Sweet
Finch
Drink.
Alex, right? Is that how it was? Yeah. Okay.
There's Alex. There's 2 Alex. There's Alex Pappas, the drummer.
Yeah.
And then there was Alex Linares. And I always we say like, which Alex? I would say Alejandro, or we say Pappas. Just so you can kind of differentiate the two.
Sure.
Yeah, I remember we played as talent show together. He was on bass, I was on guitar and vocals, and it was Sweet Dreams. We did the Marilyn Manson version.
Oh yeah.
For that. And
So sick.
It was fun. It was fun. And then like in high school, that's when we met Pappas. And then I remember, like, I think I showed that photo, like Pappas, like one year for my birthday party, like everybody came over, we had all guitars and basses and drums, just like jamming and shit. But like, and then you also had there's a huge group of guys that were just always wearing tie-dye. They just like rolling with Grateful Dead and Jimi Hendrix. They're all fish heads, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
And so like, I always felt like I was the weird one, because I liked the metal, but I didn't like the local scene.
Okay.
I found community, because you found community in
yeah.
So I found community in in Los Angeles.
Interesting.
I was like 15, 16 playing the whiskey and the Roxy, making friends with a whole bunch of people. And I'm still friends with those guys to this day. But it was just like, I realized like, this is more my scene. Because everybody,
makes sense.
Well, because what I found, at least at that time, and you live in LA, so you can tell me if it feels like this now. I feel like it didn't matter if you were in the metal or if you were doing hip hop, rock. It was like,
it's all like one thing.
It's like, oh, you're cool and you play rap.
Right.
And it was very cliquey and Temecula.
LA's, God, you know, I just think I'm at the age now where like there's a whole nother scene that's going on and I just don't know about it. But I think that comes with age too. You know about the things that you know about because you were there when they first happened, if that makes any sense, you know? But then it's like when there's a shift, you know, there's all these new bands I keep hearing about. I'm like, I don't know who the fuck that is. And then you see they're selling out like the Wiltern or the Fonda or, you know, and it's so wild, like how people find their music nowadays, you know, like for me, it was just like, by just going to like local shows.
I used to just go down to the record store.
Yeah, the record store for sure. You know, compilations. Yep.
Sam Goody, Tower.
Yeah.
I would always ask the person who looked like they might know what I like. Or like, you know, if they're wearing like an obituary t-shirt, I was like, okay, I can ask them. But if somebody's walking around wearing like Voodoo Goals, I would be like, they're not going to help me out here.
Speaking of which, like an Ephraim, the singer for Voodoo Goals, he's on our tour right now.
Oh yeah? Oh, that's funny.
He's helping out the adolescents. He's tour managing them right now. But yeah, that's who my band's out with. Yeah, man. I mean, see, like being in music too is like a guy like Ephraim, right? He's a singer. He sings for like 3 different bands. He was actually my first friend in California.
Really?
Mm-hmm. He's one of them. Yeah, I moved out because God, there's so much to talk about. But I did Warped Tour. The first time I ever did it, I was 18 years old, and I graduated high school and then went straight on the road. I was discovered by like an all-girl punk rock band called the Eyeliners. They're from Albuquerque. On that tour, like everybody that I loved and I was like growing up listening to was like on the tour. Yeah, it was like No Effects and Alkaline Trio and Newfound Glory and Good Charlotte and Bad Religion. Like any band that like was on Epitaph or Fat Records at the time, they were probably on the tour. You know, Lagwagon, No Use for a Name.
I mean, can we also just talk about that? Those bands, those labels just weren't a label. It was a
lifestyle.
It was a lifestyle.
Yeah.
It was a culture.
Yep.
It was a thing.
Yeah.
What band is this? What label are they on? Like,
right.
Fans would ask what label.
That mattered.
That did.
Mm-hmm.
It gave them more credibility.
Yeah.
I thought.
It was more valid. It was,
are you going to like them or not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I hear it completely.
Yeah. So, I mean, like that summer single-handedly changed my life though, because I was living in Utah and I just, you know, when you're on a tour for 2 months with 100 different bands, you're going to meet people. I met a lot of people that summer. And then by spring of the following year, in 2003, I was like, you know, I think I need to give LA a try. And so I moved out and kind of just figured it out from there, you know? Like I moved out there and then right when I moved out, I joined a band that was seeing success at the time called Fairview. Okay. And at this point, they had already played Coachella. They played like the Mars Volta's like first show at the Troubadour. They went on tour with like Aquabats and like Nerf Herder. They're kind of like all over the map. They could play with like, you know, punk bands, but they could also play with like hipster bands. And so yeah, I moved out there and the first day that I got there, I tried out for their band. And they're like, okay, you're a guy. And then I was in that band for like 2.5 years. And, you know, we played some shows around LA, but it was just mostly like showcasing labels and writing with people and, you know, getting in with producers that were not giving us, you know, good contracts and just waiting around to see if we can negotiate and stuff. And yeah, it's just,
well, how did you kick? So, because we met, obviously, we know where we
got some hair in my mouth. Yeah,
that's fine. Check, bro. Look, hang on. Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Let me get this buzzing done. But then you got in with Epitaph with I Am Ghost.
Yeah.
And Gabe, who's the guitar player, he found me because he found out that I was cutting hair from first to last.
Right.
And I just remember he invited me to their show. At the Glass.
I wasn't in the band yet.
You weren't in. I know you weren't in the band yet, and that was an interesting day because backstage they had Jeffree Star doing their makeup, and Davey Havoc was there.
Okay,
and they were all there. I think because Steven had become friends with some of those guys.
Okay,
I think I don't know all that. I just remember they were there, And I remember Brett was there. But Brett wasn't there for I Am Ghost.
Not originally, no.
He was there for like another band.
They stuck around, I think, and
Yeah. And then I just remember then you ended up joining the band.
yeah.
And then that's when I met you. And then we've been friends ever since.
Yeah. It's crazy how I got in that band. So I was in that band Fairview for like 2.5 years. And I think everybody in the band kind of hit a wall because it was like we were pushing and pushing, and then just like something would happen, you know? We get like, major labels were like flying us out to New York, but then, we would self-sabotage. And I just remember that we had these managers, and I'm still friends with them to this day. We had stopped working with them. And I remember at a time where I was just like, man, I just want to get in a band where like we can play shows and tour, and, we all listen to like the same things and, have things in common. And I just feeling that with my friends anymore in Fairview, and now we're all friends again and we talk, and I guess we weren't ever not friends. I'm Ghost managers used to be Fairview's managers, and they were just like, hey, you should hang out with these guys and, try out for their band. And so I think they were having problems with their drummer, and they'd only played maybe like, I think like 4 shows or something like that.
Yeah.
And so then my first show with them was at Chain Reaction. This is like in 2005. And then right after I joined the band and got a contract with Epitaph.
Yeah.
We all worked really hard though. Like we were like going to shows all the time, like standing out front, like passing out flyers and CDRs and things like that. And they kind of gained momentum like super fast.
Yeah.
In LA at the time. And so it caught attention of Epitaph, and that was
that
was it.
I mean, we have to.
I went out like a lot. Like when I was in California, dude, I'm telling you. So like it goes back to my friend Ephraim. So he, I knew him from the band Death by Stereo, who like I was on tour with on Warped Tour.
Yeah.
I moved out to California. I lived maybe, I don't know, like a couple miles from Chain Reaction. I lived behind a bowling alley over there in Anaheim. And so he didn't live too far from me. So I go kick it with him. I met some of his friends, and we all just started hanging out, and I just made going out my life, in addition to playing drums. Yeah. And it was just the right place, right time kind of a thing too,
Well, also I Am Ghost was different too, because they had a violin player.
Right. Yes.
And that was,
and all of us still keep in touch. We still talk.
There we go.
Yeah. This is in the right direction.
Yeah. Just going to make these little pieces of texture up through here.
So yeah, man, that's kind of how it all began for me though, and then just like I toured with them for 2 years straight. And then I just, you hit a wall. It's like that movie, That Thing You Do, bands come and go, but you just got to keep playing.
Yeah.
And that's been my whole career, and,
can I tell you one of my favorite moments of running into you?
Okay. Sure. I don't know if I'm going to remember this or not, but
yeah, you will.
Okay.
So I remember this because it was a weird night for me, and you just happened to add to it.
Okay.
See, I'm probably around 25. So
okay.
Still, you and I are still new friends, right?
Okay. Can't wait for this.
Oh yeah. I don't know why, but I ended up going up to LA to go hang out with Allison Burns.
Okay.
And at the time, there was this nightclub that, if you want to know what I'm talking about, just go back and watch any episode of The Hills, and you'll hear them all going to a club called Area, which is where I ended up going with Allison. We're at Area, and I'm like, oh, look, there's a crazy line. She's like, honey, we're VIP. And I'm like, oh, I did not know what we were doing. So I wore like a hoodie, and everyone's all dressed up to impress people. So we're at Area, and all I know is that night I'm like having a conversation with Matt Sorum, drummer from Guns N' Roses. Mm-hmm. I'm like trying to like cut a rug on the dance floor, and then who's right there? It's Nicole Richie. Then Paris Hilton's over here, Lindsay Lohan. And then she's like, let's go somewhere else. So we go to Hyde.
I do. Okay. I think I remember this night. Yeah.
And you are like, Joe, you just missed Scott Weiland.
Oh, yeah.
And then
I remember that.
And I'm like, what the fuck? And then I'm talking to you, and then Zach Braff and Donald Faison show up.
Yep. Yeah, I remember this. Yeah, for sure.
These are the stories that only happen when you live in a place like Los Angeles.
Yep.
And I just always think about like...
Yeah, I went up to Donald Faison because my dad worked on the TV show Clueless.
Oh.
So I went up to him and I was like, hey man, like probably don't remember me, but I used to come to set all the time. He's like, oh shit, what's up, dude?
And I had run into them at like some random bar.
Yeah.
And they're cool.
Yeah, it was a good night.
Great night. Yeah.
I was there with my friend's band. They're called The Color Turning.
Yeah.
And this would have been my earliest start of trying to be a, because we talk about being in music, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like being in music, you have to do multiple things. You can't just be a musician. That's what I really feel like. You can't just you got to have other things going on. So this was my first attempt at trying to be and I did it with a couple friends. This is my first attempt at being a manager. Do you remember how this happened? So The Color Turning this is a band that I was hanging out with. Color Turning had a MySpace page, and this label called Soft Drive Records had written The Color Turning. They're like, hey, so this is Scott Weiland's label. Scott wants to meet up with all you guys, blah, blah. So we're like, okay. And I'm just what is it even going on? So we all met up, and we went, he was he wanted to take us to Hyde. And at the time, I remember, I think again, man, it's you are what you negotiate,
Yeah.
But Scott was just so charming. And I just remember I think I don't know, it was maybe a week after we had all met up, he threw a contract in their face, and I was just getting legal advice.
Yeah.
As one would. We looked at it, and I was like, hey, I don't think this is a very good deal. They did it,
Yeah.
They got to play a few shows with them, with Stone Temple Pilots and Black Rebel Motorcycle Club.
Okay.
It was at Dodger Stadium.
Oh, yeah, good.
And then after that was it. It was over.
Yeah.
That was it, But I mean, music is just so funny, man. It's I feel like it's right place, right time. Anybody could be in it. It just matters. It's just what really matters is it's almost like roulette, You can have all the right things in place, but it might not work. And I always say the 9 times out of 10 bands fail, and the 1 in 10 that succeed were the ones that were too stupid to stop. And that's musicians. That's anybody in any kind of entrepreneurial field.
I agree.
I mean, because you were a musician, and it's you still are, but I mean,
yeah.
I was going to say,
when you retire from music, you lose all of your, you lose all of your talent. I'm not actively trying to pursue a career in music.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, what made you go into hair? It was because
real simple.
You hung out with all the cool band dudes, and they're like, man, I need a fucking haircut. And you're like, well, what?
Well,
yeah,
was in it.
Tell me.
What happened? Okay, so real quick, what got me into hair is it just seemed like something fun to do.
Okay.
I was doing my girl at that time, then girlfriend's hair for Halloween, and by the time this airs, if nobody skipped it, you're gonna want to listen to the episode with Becky. I actually brought her on. I'd never done her hair until.
Oh, no way. Okay.
So 24 years later, I finally cut her hair.
She came to Austin?
She lives in Austin.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, right. So anyways, I brought her on, and we talked about that whole thing.
Yeah.
And so I thought it would be fun. And then also knowing that certain guys in bands were hairdressers before, like Ryan Shutt from Orgy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
By Sunrise. He was a hairdresser.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he was off tour and I was in cosmetology school, he would cut my hair from time to time. And I had met him because my band, Pitfall, had played with their friend's band, Spineshank, because Amir from Orgy had produced some of the first record for Spineshank. So we're all there at the Roxy. And what happened is I thought that playing music was fun, and the band broke up. And I was like, I'm going to get another band again. I started getting another band. I actually tried to get something going on with John, who is the bass player from First to Last.
Okay, yeah.
A project together.
Okay.
And we got a little write-up in AP with it.
Okay.
And so anyways, that didn't happen. And I kept trying to figure out the right pieces for the right next band and all that. But what happened is pieces didn't work. And I'm like, well, I'm going to continue to do hair because it's fun. And can provide an income.
Yeah.
And it's creative. I can pretty much look how I want, and I can still do the music. And then that just took off. I was like, I can travel. I can do teaching.
Right.
I didn't realize all that was there. Mm-hmm. And then what happened is I had friends that worked for different bands. But at the same time, I got along with these guys in the bands too. And so my natural thing was, hey, if you guys need haircuts, let me know. Because I do hair.
Right.
And I would say that to a few of these different bands. The band to take me up on it was Slipknot. It was Jim Root and he's like, yeah, man. And I remember something to the effect it was like,
mm-hmm.
Can you cut hair like you play guitar? And the answer was like, yeah. And he's like, cool. All right, let's do it. And that was it. That's what happened.
Man.
And I just kept friends with people
Yeah.
and so we put some like salt spray in.
Yeah.
And I just really enjoyed that. And I know some people like, I'm music adjacent.
Right.
I'm not trying to make it in music. I'm not trying to do any of those things, but I do enjoy
it. Yeah.
And that's led me to,
And you are. It's like,
kind of great.
yeah.
I mean, there's lots of people I've gotten to meet, got to run into.
What is that stuff you're putting in my hair? I just want to know because I feel
It's by Purology. It's called Beach Waves Sugar Spray.
Got it.
Yeah, I like it. You could do this in a bunch of different ways, but if you're towel drying your hair, you're looking for like that little bit of that messiness. What I like about the Purology Beach Waves is since it does have a sugar base, it has it's not matte looking, so it has a little bit of a shine to it.
Sure.
But so that's not what that happened for me. If you think about it, like David Bowie is such an icon, right? But like it was his hair. Like there's flock of seagulls.
Sure.
Their hair, like hair is part of that.
Hey man, 2005. Every had the swoop. Every single fucking person.
Yes. And to kind of go off of that about hair is somebody asked me, would you want to deal with like celebrities? And I always said no. They like you deal with rock bands. I go, yeah, but like that's a different kind of thing. Like rock bands.
Because rock bands all start from the fucking bottom. They don't like.
They are allowed to have looks and
Right, they're allowed to be
allowed to look odd, look weird, and break the mold. Where if you're an actor, your brand is also how you look. Like, does Robert Downey Jr. change his hair often?
No,
hardly. Bradley Cooper, hardly.
Right.
The one who does it the most is probably Brad Pitt and Johnny Depp. But Johnny Depp looks like a rock star most of the time now. What I'm saying is like, even
he is too, but
yeah. Even actresses have like a look that they have to kind of like fit in,
Right.
So that's where it is. Like guys in music and girls in music have a lot more leeway of fun, if you ask me,
right,
to do stuff than it is to like, oh well, I have to. If they have an image and a brand they want to do that, like I'm always happy to do that. Like like Brandon Flowers, he has a look. He's very suave, debonair, very classic. Handsome.
Dude, I remember, God,
but it's not like Sonny's hair, AKA Skrilla.
Right.
It's not like, oh, let's just shave the side off, That's the thing. We're like, some of the musicians I've always thought would be like dream clients to cut would be like Marilyn Manson.
Sure.
Because he has, you want to talk about somebody who will push the boundaries and will do stuff.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't look good, he'll still do it.
He'll still try it.
He'll still try it like that. I like that risk taker thing, That's what I like.
I got to drop your name to Brandon Flowers. Played a show with them in Tampa. This is like right before COVID, actually. This is in 2019. And I remember we were like backstage and a friend of ours, his name's Robbie, and he's playing guitar in the Killers. And I remember like, hey, you guys want to go meet, Brandon? And they were like, fuck yeah. I met Ronnie before too. I got to tell you that story. I don't know if I told you this.
You have.
The Ronnie story?
I think so.
Like Sue over at Epitaph, she was like, oh yeah, Ronnie lives in Park City.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she gave me his email and I was like, hey, like we're both kind of up here sometimes, we should like meet up sometime. And like, he was just like, yeah, that'd be cool, whatever. So I just see him in a bar one night and I just go up to him and I start talking and, basically, yeah, we were talking for maybe like 5 or 10 minutes. And then somebody like off the street, was in the bar and they were, they liked the band I was in and they're like, oh my God, you're that guy. And I was like, oh fuck. And then that Ronnie, I was like, I gotta go. I'm like, but then like when we were talking to Brandon, I was like, so Tab cut your hair, huh? He's like, oh, Tab? And it just became this whole thing. It was awesome, dude. So
well,
he was really nice. And he was like, yeah, I went to like Disney World before playing, today. I guess he had just gotten there like 5 minutes before the set. And then he's a big family guy,
So before I had my son, I remember I had a lot of questions about raising kids and he has all boys. And I did pick his brain about what they do with all the kids and like, how do they balance things? Because even though I don't go on tour, I travel for work. And so I wanted to get some insight. Sure. And I'm not going to lie, like I got some great pointers. Actually, I just wished him a happy birthday.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Because him and my wife have the same birthday.
Oh, okay.
So it's really easy to remember.
To remember, sure.
Yeah. It's like if you had my birthday as my son,
Right.
and of course I remember it's your birthday.
100%.
Yeah. So there we go. You're shortened up. It's a little heavy right here. Got to twist this.
You can say like, what do you think about over here? Here? No? Maybe? You get, yes. I mean, you're the guy. Yeah.
Yeah, let's go. Well, you were supposed to come out and hang out with me. And then you canceled because we ended up getting like a snowstorm. So you would have got stuck here for a couple of days.
Yeah.
You ended up going out to Miami.
I did.
Life-changing event for Miami.
Yeah, it was. I stopped drinking when it was like around 2021.
Yeah.
It's been 3 years since I've drank alcohol, man. Yeah, I was gonna come visit you. Big snowstorm happened. I partied a little too hard, in Miami, and I was like, you know what? I shouldn't stop before, things get really out of hand. And because I feel like with drinking, nothing good comes out of drinking. It really doesn't. When you really think about it, sometimes it does, but most of the times, what's the long-term effect? I had a mental breakdown. Yeah, I was like, I can't do this. I physically can't. I think I was really depressed during the whole COVID thing, and
You weren't alone. I mean, everyone got bummed at some point.
Right. So I guess I dealt with it differently than other people.
Oh, I think everyone drank too.
Right. So I just was like, you know what? I had this realization where like right now in my life, I only have everything to lose. I noticed that when I stopped drinking as well, that's where I started putting up boundaries, for certain things. Actually, a lot of things, but I started putting up boundaries. And I think that also, when you stop drinking, you really find out who your friends are, what people are actually there for you, and who's not there for you,
I think I even asked you when we were hanging out, I said, hey, if I have a drink, is it going to be okay with you?
Yeah, it doesn't.
No, but I asked.
Yeah.
I also lost friends to drugs and alcohol.
Right. Same.
And I tell people this, I go, some people go, they don't pardon anymore. And I'm like, yeah. And if they keep drinking and doing drugs, they're never going to party.
Right.
Never, because they're going to die.
I used to say I didn't have a drinking problem. I had a fun problem. That's what I used to say.
You realize it was actually a drinking problem.
Yeah. It was just,
And I tell people like, I selfishly want you alive so I can spend more time with you as my friend.
Sure. I felt like I was overlooking a lot of things drinking. You know what I mean? Yeah. I was like, as long as the party was happening, as long as I get to live my lifestyle, it doesn't really matter what happens.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Monetarily, morally didn't matter as long as
you're having fun.
Right. Yeah. And that was, and once I stopped drinking, I felt like that was the moment where it's like, okay, who am I really?
Like, people get weird about that you didn't drink anymore? Did people get weird?
No, but the phone calls were happening less,
Go out?
Yeah. It's like now I have a very few select friends now that like, I'm like, I can count on, you know what I mean? And so you're one of them, but like, yeah, it's just your whole world changes, man, and you really start to find out who you are and who others are around you. And it's almost like you're taking off the blinders. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's drinking in a nutshell for me.
By the way, don't flatten your hair out.
Okay.
You always do this.
I know, man.
And the thing is it looks cooler when you have hiking there, dude.
Okay, well then let's go like this then.
That looks better. That's better.
Great.
Yeah, that's way better than flattening it out.
Ah, man, this feels so good.
If you flatten it out and you spike up the back here, it looks like a Rock Me Being in high in there. Oh my God, I have a lesson for you. Never mind. So he's that old T-Rock DJ.
Oh, really? Okay.
See, those 2 years of me being older, it just showed up right
what
now.
about here?
Oh my God.
Oh, come on, man. I never see you. I mean, I do see you, but
okay, hang up. I'm just giving you shit.
So you messed it up. I'm just kidding. Haircut ruined.
You forced me to do it. No. Yeah, I got to call Brian and see if Brian's going to come tonight.
Yeah, that's another guy I met out there on Warped Tour back in 2002.
Dude, did you see that they got coverage in Rolling Stone?
No.
Their new song and then their record and all that?
No.
They're touring? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw it today. I shared it because it's like, they're coming back celebrating their 20 years of being together.
I hung out with that band like every day on Warped Tour. It was them and Real Big Fish.
I saw
super good dudes.
I saw Real Big Fish open up for Kiss. Yeah.
What's that?
It was they opened up for Kiss.
Is it a radio show?
No, it was day after Halloween, Irvine Meadows. It was the reunion year, so it was like 1996. And I had no idea what ska was.
Okay.
This whole like skanking thing.
It lasted for about a year.
The whole time, I'm like, why is he doing aerobics? I'm like, why is he doing aerobics? Yeah.
Damn, man. I just like playing with it.
I know.
I know, you know.
Kind of. You're doing your thing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Hang on. There's a little bit back here I want to take because now that it's more dry, I want to make sure that we're like not leaving some off.
I'm so curious to see how much hair you cut off.
Oh my God. It's a lot.
Is it enough to donate to charity?
No, you can make a few merkins if you wish. And that's going to be a word people are going to look up.
Merkin?
Like, what is it? Oh.
Oh, man. You know, I do get to see you often, though, because you come out to LA quite a bit, you know? I met up with you in Nashville once.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah. We had
Took your own town?
Yeah.
At sushi, you went to some bars.
Yeah. And I wish I had stayed a little bit longer because you played that weekend, that Friday.
Did I?
Juliana Theory. Yeah.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yeah. And you're going to be, I think, are you coming back out here?
I am. Yeah, man.
So that's going to be fun. So it's like, it's fun to hang out with people outside of when you normally see them, you know?
Yeah.
Like my best friend, Robert, lives in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw him because I was out at a work trip in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And we hung out. But then he had a work trip out here in Texas. So he hung out here for a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were both out on a work trip thing out of SoCal. And we grew up in Southern California again. So
yeah.
like, hey, we're on our own road together, you know? And it's just fun like that.
So rad.
Well, speaking of rap, your hair's done.
Oh, gosh.
And, yeah, we only like scratched the surface. But this is just, you know.
Oh, I know. Yeah, for real.
I mean,
I'm just so glad.
I want to ask you two things.
Yeah.
One, when you were 11 years old, did you think that when you were imagining what it would be like to be a professional musician, has it lived up to its expectations in any way? And second question is, have you ever been starstruck? If so, who was it?
So the first part of that question is, have you seen the movie Spinal Tap?
Yes.
It's a lot like that.
Okay.
It's like, oh, you know, it was, I think it's one of the greatest movies of all time because of how real some of that actually is.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you're laughing because people are like, oh, it's some funny comedy. It's like, no, that shit kind of happens.
I've gotten lost backstage trying to find the stage. Yeah, I have. I'm like, where?
Like, it's like, how did this person mess up like the Stonehenge bit? You know, it's like they had the dimensions. Yeah, I just like things like that happen all the time.
Step. And then,
you know,
who did you?
Starstruck, I would say, I'd say Green Day, Billy Joe Armstrong. I've met him now twice. The first time.
Were you tripping over your words?
Fuck yeah, sure. First time I met him, I was in New York, right? And so there was this club called the Bowery Electric. And there was a period where I was like, sort of like kind of living in New York. I was dating a girl out there. Every time I was off tour, I was in a band from Virginia called the Bigger Lights. And every time I was off tour, I would go to New York and I'd spend like a couple weeks here and there. So we go out at night and I met this guy, Jesse Mallon, who I would almost say he's like New York royalty, you know, like he owns all these bars and like, he's a musician and he's in this band called D-Generation. They're on Billy's label. Yeah. And, you know, like writes with like Ryan Adams and shit like that. So he invited me out to a show and I was watching him play. It's like a 200 cap room. And I'm looking to my left and Billy is wearing like a beanie, the hoodie. He's like, you wouldn't really recognize him unless you knew who he was. And I'm like, that's Billy Joe. Oh my God, fucking crazy. So I saw after the show, he walks up and he goes in the backstage room. And there wasn't any security guards after the show. Okay. And I'm looking around, I'm like, I should try this. Yeah. I should try to go backstage. And so I did it. I went backstage, and as soon as I went back there, it was like the record had skipped. And it was like everybody was looking at me. I'm like, oh shit. Like, I'm back here now. What do I do? Yeah. And then Jesse was like, all right, how's it going, man? I was like, oh wow, this is my in. And then we were all standing around telling jokes. Got to pass around a joint. It was awesome, dude. This must have been like 2009 or 10. And then the last time I got to meet him, I was at the airport, and we were on the same flight to Singapore
because you were doing that Formula.
Yeah. And so that was really cool. Yeah, I was like, why did they take a private jet? But I was like, maybe it's just too long over there or something. You know, they might have to refuel somewhere. Yeah, I was like, this is the band that. It's all their fault.
Yeah, it's all like now.
It's all their fault. Yeah, cool. So it was awesome.
Well,
and now I have an awesome haircut, and God, we didn't even Yeah, we touched on the surface of everything.
Yo, like we scratched the top of an iceberg. You got to get going.
I do.
We got to get you to rehearsal.
Sound check.
Whatever.
Yeah.
It's the same thing to me now.
Yeah, man.
Whatever.
Yeah.
We got to go.
All right.
All right. Later.